Hello there, it's me, Sari here again, and today I'm here to show you how I have started watercoloring or coloring images with some watercolor products. I have mostly used distress inks, I believe, and picked the color up with a water brush or something, but I have also tried out the watercolor pencils from Prima Marketing. And I have also tried out the distress marker pens, and depending on how I go on about this video, I might actually do 3 separate videos, but I just thought I'd give you a heads up on some of the things that I have made so far. And watercoloring is something that I have felt quite intimidated by, because one is supposed to be an artist, isn't one? And I do not feel myself like an artist, but in this case I do feel like this is rather a nice result. Without too many shadowy techniques or anything, it's almost just one layer of color on the complete thing. And I have also made a background with watercolor inks there. And I have made this butterfly as well, and I do like stamps or motifs like this, because then you really can't go wrong. It's all about your eye making the choices of how you want to color things in. I have also colored these beautiful crazy birds from Holtz in with distress ink, and I have sort of become quite fascinated by the watercoloring technique. I have been watching people do it, I have shot videos from it and everything, and perhaps that is finally sinking in, and I'm making my own version of it, sort of. And let's just see, these are the funky little birds that Tim Holtz has released in a stamp set that it's called Crazy Birds, and it looks like this. You have 6 birds all in all to color in and have some fun with. And there are also some text stamps in another text stamp set, and I just thought it could be fun to combine them and perhaps make these into Project Life cards or pocket page cards, filler cards, so to speak. And so this is basically where my inspiration is coming from. I've also tried out some different brands of stamps. This is the gorgeous girl there, and here is another version of it. So I'm thinking that if I'm going to get started today, I believe that I'll go on with the distress inks, actually, because I do find them rather easy to work with. And I'm just going to take an acrylic block and pick out some of the colors here, just to get me started. And this is going to be a long video, so perhaps you ought to pause the button and perhaps get some coffee or something, or I'm not sure how you're going to do this, but well, anyway, let's see. I could start off with one of those crazy birds, couldn't I? So I'm thinking that the beak will definitely be orange, and I do fancy having some blue in the bird as well as some green. So I'm thinking that perhaps the peeled paint is where I'm at, and I could go for, I sort of tend to do the same kind of colors all the time, but it doesn't matter now, does it? As long as I can show you how I work. And let's see, well, I'm sure I can pick up another color if need be. So what I do is I just take one of these small ink pads and I just squeeze it a little bit into the acrylic block there, and I'm going to take some yellow down here. And just in order to be able to see what I'm working on, I actually like to put a white piece of paper underneath, and the colors will pop up even more better. I, for one, am using a water container brush from Sakura Koi brand, and I think it's the medium size. And the one thing you should think about when you want to fill this container with water is that you actually have to do the screwing in the opposite way, because this is a Japanese brush, so it's reversed sort of. And when I get started, let's see, I'm hoping I'll be able to stay within the frame, because sometimes I have a tendency to just go somewhere else. Let's see, perhaps I should shift this to the right, and hopefully you can see me with the color and all. Since I'm doing some coloring, I like to sit down. I won't feel comfortable standing up. I will be rushed and everything, so this is why I'm having a different kind of light setting today. So I'm going to start off with the beak. And well, since I'm just going to, I'm just going to color it in like that. I'm not really particular about how things turn out. I'm sort of I do things rather randomly and sloppily, people might say. And something has started aggravating me already, because I did get a little bit of color outside. So I might actually just take a piece of paper. I might also say that I have stamped the image with some VersaFine. I just picked up a new ink pad, and that really gives a nice and crisp image. I like to clean up my brush on a piece of paper. I'm just using an old envelope here. And what you might do, if you are really particular about things, you might actually just try to get a little bit of water there. But as you can see, I'm just diluting the color, so that wasn't the greatest tip I could give you. But I could try to get it off, and thinking about the fact that I'll be putting on another color there, I might actually be better off not doing anything more. And of course now I've got that yellow streak there, but just make believe that it isn't there at all. So let's continue. I'm going to go for some more orange, and this is just the way I do it. I mean, I'm intentionally leaving a little bit of white on the beak there, just to give it some interest. And I'm just cleaning off the brush here, and just by squeezing the container a little bit, I'm getting more water out if I want to. So let's see, if I'm going to go for something blue, this bit here will turn green, so that is something that I could think about actually. And I could just take a little bit of color and let it go as long as it goes, and then I'll have some sort of a nice green sort of gradation there. I could pick up some more blue, and just by starting off at the edge, I'll be able to get a little bit deeper, a deeper in effect. And I could just let the water take it where it wants to go. I sort of like that with the watercoloring technique, that not having that much control and instead letting the water do the job, or do the work for me. And of course, when it comes to these small and tiny bits, you have to pay attention to where everything ends up, but you see it's going to end up rather nicely, I suppose. And well, this is a little bit of how it works right now. Just have to think about a little bit how it's going to turn out when it has dried. And I'm sort of imagining this body green, and I'm starting off with the tail feathers. It doesn't really matter in which order you do this, just go along and colour the bird in. And as you can see, the colour stretches quite far, and in this case I'm actually able to make the front part of the bird rather light if I want to, and I could all go down here again and just make a sort of a green body and keep it a little bit lighter in the front. And if I want to make some kind of a deeper impact, I could actually go in with the same color and create some kind of a darker edge to it. And well, let's see, it's a little bit tricky talking and coloring at the same time, I must say. let's see now, and I'm just going to put the colour in here and there. And you know, I'm using the same method whether I colour with Copic markers or whatever I'm using. You'll see that in the next project that I'll be making, or the colouring items I'll be making. And in this case I'm also making use of the lines of the birds, because that is sort of an indication of that it could be a little bit darker there. So as for now, I'm here with this. I'm just putting in a little bit of darker an effect, and I could continue. And of course it's a good thing to actually let things dry in between, but since I'm doing this video, I'm just going to go in again. And well, I could go for some forest moss, I suppose. I believe that is the closest to that peeled paint, just if I would like to have something darker. Well, you see, this is sort of turning a little bit brown in the part there. I'm not sure if you can see it properly, but in my eyes it actually sort of becomes a browner version of green. I'm just going to put it here and there really, and I'll let it dry for a little bit, and then I could go on for the wing. And seeing myself coloring in with some mustard seed. It's a yellowish sort of hue, and I'm just going to color it in with that brush. And just to get a little bit of cohesiveness, I'm going to pick up the orange, and I'm just going to make some dots where there should be in my mind. And I could also make these become orange. Let's see now. Some motifs, of course, you might think that they are easier to color with some Copic markers. I mean, alcohol-based pens or something like that. Let's see if I can correct that mistake of getting the color outside the lines. I'm not particularly happy about that. And since it is rather wet, I'm so sure I ought to wait a little before I do anything of this sort. But the trick is, I suppose, that you just wet the paper up a little bit and take a bit of paper, piece of paper, and you just lift it up like that. It's not going to be easy, and you might actually squeeze out a little bit of water from your paintbrush, and make sure you don't get a big puddle of water there. And just be careful. And take that piece of paper again, just pick it up. And if you're going to make some sort of a shadow around it, you could actually do that. Since I believe that this bird is sort of blotchy now, I'm actually thinking of going in and taking a little bit of that peel paint and a bit of water, and having it rather liquid now. I'm just actually going to color it all in, just to make it a little bit more smooth looking. And let's see where it'll end up in a minute or two. About that blue color, I'm not sure. I actually do have faded jeans that I believe could be a nice companion to that blue. So I'm just taking a little bit of that peel paint on that acrylic block, and I'm just taking a little bit of color on the brush like so, and I'm just going to make a sort of border for it, and it sort of seems like it's going to marry the color rather well. And as you can see, I did get outside the line again, but I hope you can forgive me. Perhaps I'm rushing this a little bit unnecessarily, so I'm sure. And well, I wish this one was dry and everything, because I would like to show you something that I have seen. A Finnish girl, Karita Vainioth, I believe her name was. She's really bold. I mean, she goes in with the black soot to create a nice border or some kind of a background to this. So I'm just taking a little bit of black soot there, and I think I'll do the same thing. I'm just going to pick up some color and I'm just going to sort of fade out. I'll just put the black color here, and I'm just going to make it as dark as I can on the inner part there, and I'm just going to fade it out out from the bird. And I'm thinking that, I mean, under the bird there should be even more dark color, because I mean that is where the shadow should be, you know, shouldn't it? And I'm also thinking that there might be a little bit more shadow there. So, I mean, she uses different hues, of course. I mean, she goes for some dark blue and everything. Let's see if I can do the same. Just going to create some sort of a... And I'm just going to move rather swiftly here. And I'm just going to create a sort of a dark background to this bird. I mean, since I have been putting most of the color outside the lines anyway, so I might actually do this. It might be a good idea to actually just move the paper if you feel like you aren't getting the colors as nicely as you wanted to. And I'm just starting off just outside the lines of the bird and hoping I can be able to make it darker there. And let's see where I can end up. And Carita, she really works it with those dark colors, and I mean, she also starts the coloring in by making the background, and I mean that is a really bold move, and she definitely makes it work. You should really check her videos out. You'll be amazed if you haven't looked at them. And here I'm thinking that I could sort of create a little bit of something else there. So let's see if I could dilute this color a little bit more and make it a little bit more faint. And I could just drag the color outside like that. And thinking I could actually go for some more water, so I'm just going to squeeze out some water from the brush, or I could go for a spray bottle. I mean, you could just go for something like this and spray it on top of that acrylic block, just so you get a little bit of water moving. And you could go in and perhaps pick up some of the color. It's not necessarily so that you might actually succeed in picking that color out up and can move it anymore, but I'm just going to give it a go, aren't I? I'm just hoping I'll be able to smoothen this out a little bit. And I think that I ought to leave this one to dry a little bit before I do anything else with it. And well, let's see if I can come back to that. I'm not sure how far I've gone now. I can't see the time. So I had better pause and perhaps make another video with a different kind of colouring product. I'll be back shortly.